Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we'll be learning how to set up R and RStudio. So in terms of the scope, we'll be learning how to firstly install R and RStudio, and then next up, we will set up RStudio accordingly. So before we continue, I think it's important for us to understand the difference between R and RStudio. So R itself is a programming language, while RStudio itself is an integrated development environment, or IDE as you call it. So for the IDE, they have a lot of features. So you have debugging features, you also have syntax prompt. So when you key in the syntax, they will actually prompt you where the amount of options available for that syntax. They also have, for RStudio itself, they also have this help feature. So if you want to key in a function but you don't know what is the available parameters for that function, you can key in the functions in the search bar, and then they will explain what the function does and also what are the available parameters, which is something that I use all the time. So over here you also have the console. So the console is for you to type in the code directly, and then here you have the script whereby you can run multiple lines of code directly. So for the console, you can only run one line of code at a time, but for the script itself, you can actually you can run the full script directly without having to type in one line by one line. So this is the IDE that we are talking about, and then R itself is a programming language. So if someone asks you what's the difference between R and RStudio, you should know the difference. So we will actually start off by doing the installation of R first. So when you do the installation, it's important that you actually install R before you install RStudio. The reason being, if you don't install R, RStudio will not actually work because they don't recognize the R path, because R is not installed on your computer, right? So you need to install R first before you install RStudio. So over here is the GitHub repository that I've been talking about in the first episode. So all the course content will be inside this repository, so you can just click on here and then you can just move on to episode 2, setting up R and RStudio, right? You just click on this one and then you will get the course material here. So I'll leave the link to this repository in the description below, so you can just click on it and then read the instructions. So firstly, you need to set up R. So there are two, depending on your operating system. So if you're using Windows 10, then you have to click on this link. And if you're using Mac OS, then you have to click on this link, right? So I use Mac OS, so I click on this, and then after that I click on this one. So this package is the one that I want to actually install. So you just click on it and then wait for it to complete. All right, should be pretty fast. Alright, done. So you just click on it, and then here just click on continue, agree, and then continue, and then after that you click on install. As I've already installed this R version, I'm not going to install in this episode. Alright, so if you're using Windows 10, you can just click on this link, and then you can just click on this, download R 4.0.5 for Windows. Depending on the day that you actually watch this video, this version may actually change. So just download the latest one always. Right. So now that we have actually successfully installed R on our computer, it's time for us to actually install RStudio. Also, if you actually encounter any issues when installing R, do let me know in the Discord channel under the R programming question section, and then I will actually answer your issues and see if I can actually solve it. Alright, so now it's time for us to install RStudio. So as we scroll down here, we have a link. So install RStudio from RStudio website. Click on this, and then it will bring us to the official RStudio website. So here say download the RStudio IDE, and we just scroll down. Here we have a free version, right? So we want to download this one, RStudio Desktop, and then this open source license is free. So after you click on download, you follow the installation instruction. It's really very fast and quite simple. So if you encounter any issues, also hit me up on Discord and I will see if I can actually solve it. So now I'll actually talk about setting up the RStudio. So I'd like you to actually open up RStudio right now. And then you actually, what you see on RStudio is probably different from mine. So you probably won't see an additional section here. And also the color scheme is definitely different. Yours is definitely white and mine's black here. So what you want to do is, firstly, I will usually change the color scheme. So under Tools, Global Option. So over here, under Appearance, so this is where you actually change the theme. So for RStudio theme, I usually stick to Modern. It's good enough. For the font, you can actually pick one that you like. For me, I choose Monaco. So I actually download this from the Google font and then install it on my computer in order for me to use it. So for the editor theme, I usually use Cobalt. So it has a dark bluish color scheme on the outside. And then in terms of the colorings of all this, for example, the functions, the conditional statements, I think it looks pretty nice. So I'll just stick with it. I think there's an option for you to actually adjust. Oh, you can't. The color scheme. Wow, you can't do it here. Okay. Alright, so that's for the appearance. You can actually spend some time tweaking it and choosing one that actually looks good to you. And then next up we have is the pane layout. Alright, so here I think you probably don't have this part. So what you want to do, let's say if I remove column, I remove this one, yours should look like this. So over here you can actually choose what to put in here. So there are 4 for you to choose, right? So I actually put source over here. Source is the source code, and then the console, and then the environment. So if I just click on apply first, okay, so yeah, it should look like this. So mine is a source, so this is where I put all my script in here. Console, so this is the console, and then here's the environment, history, connection. So this is where you actually can take a look at what's stored inside a variable, for example. And then here's the file. You can deal with file, plots, packages, help, and also viewers are, I don't actually use viewers are for R Shiny. Help, I use help a lot. So it's like a mini Google inside RStudio. So over here you want to actually do an add column. So once you add column, it's automatically a source, right? So it's an additional panel for you to add in your script. So usually I will use this panel if I'm using at least a 22-inch monitor. If you're using a 15-inch laptop, I don't think it's a good idea for you to add in additional panel because your screen estate would be actually quite limited. So you can just stick to just the 4 boxes over here and exclude the additional panel. But if you have a monitor, then by all means add in a new panel. You put in an additional source code. So I'll just click on apply and I'll click on OK. So over here I can adjust the panel size, and same applies for here as well. Okay, so here you can actually type in your source code. So for example, I assign a number to A, and then assign another number to B. So the difference between a source code panel and a console is that, like I said just now, for console you can only run one line of code at a time. So over here I can run 2 lines of code. So I can just do I can just drag the whole line and then I click on run. So it's quite important that you actually drag the whole source code and click on run. If you just leave it like this and you just click on run, you only execute the first line. As you can see, you only execute the first line. And then of course you can just click on run again to execute the second line and so on. But for us, we usually just drag the whole source code and then we click on run. Also, you can click on Control Enter to run the full code as well if you don't want to click on run. So I click on Control Enter, I can run it at the same time instead of just clicking on run. So over here you can see that if I click on the console, I assign a number, I can only run once, right? I can't, once I click enter, I run one line. I can run multiple lines as opposed to what I did for the source code. over here. So over here I also can run a few lines as well. So I can run c is equals to 3, d is equals to 4. Right, I can run this as well, and then over here I can also run this. So it's quite useful if you actually want to, let's say you want to copy paste some of the code over here to this big source code, to this big page. You can actually do that. For me, usually what I do is I work on R Shiny. So we have two source code that we have to maintain. One is a UI and one is a server. So usually I run the server code over here and then I run the UI over here. So let's say if I want to, like for example, I want to work on an action button, but I can't remember what's the name of the action button. I'll look into the UI and then I'll be like, oh, okay, so this is the name of the action button, button 1. So I'll just copy button 1 and then I'll just paste it over here. So it's like a reference. I can change accordingly to whatever I want. So over here, you also notice that there's a terminal section here. So here you can actually run your terminal inside here. For example, ls will show you what's inside, and then you can do cd ... to go back to one inventory and so on. So you can run terminal code in here without having the need to open a brand new terminal, which is kind of cool. So over here you can see that and under the environment section, right, you see just now when I actually run out the code, all the data are stored over here. So A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4. So everything is stored inside here, which I think is really good about RStudio, is that they actually tell you what is the value that's assigned to the variables. So if you actually code in Python, pretty similar IDE that is close to RStudio is actually Spider. So I use Spider a lot as well because of this feature. So over here we also have history. So this is the line of code that was used before. So here you can trace what has been run before. So if you actually forget and you want to get back in again, you can actually look through the history. So connection, I don't usually use connection. And then there's a tutorial in here as well. I never actually tried a tutorial. So it's the environment history that I use quite a lot. So over here we have files. So all the files that you have in your existing directory. So here's the plot. So if you have any plots, it will show up here, and then you can actually export it up as an image or PDF. Packages. So packages are all the available packages that is installed in your R environment. So if let's say if you see it has a tick in here, right? Some of them doesn't have a tick, but this one has a tick. So this means that it's being run at this moment. So if you actually run the library, if you actually run some code but then it says that it's unable to recognize the code, chances are you actually never never actually run the library. So always remember to look into the packages to see if you actually run the library. You can run the library in multiple ways. I will actually teach you in subsequent tutorials. So one way is to actually click on the tick box. You just click on it and then you actually import. The second way is to actually type in library, for example C++11, and yeah, so that's another way. But usually we just use this method, which is much more convenient for us to import multiple libraries as opposed to just clicking on the tick box. So help, you will be using help a lot. So over here, let's say if I'm using this count function inside Deepler, so you explain to you what this count function does, right? So you say, count lets you quickly count the unique values of one or more variables. Then over here, they give you an example, which is really cool. And then here is argument. So you need to put an X in here, and then WT sort, what's the name of the column, new column with output. And then here they have all the examples that you can actually run. So the documentation for all these packages are really good. So instead of just going to opening up a new Google Chrome to actually Google the functions that you are looking for, you can actually just look in here directly, right? So for example, if I want to use the filter function in Deepler, so probably do a mutate function in Deepler. Mutate. Okay, so here they will tell you what is the mutate function that you are looking for. So for example, where's the mutate? Oh, Deepler. So Deepler mutate. Yeah, here. So deploy mutate. So I just click on this one, and then it will explain to you what it does. So create, modify, and delete columns. I use this quite a lot. And then they also have all the arguments and some examples at the bottom here as well. So you can just make it larger for you to see. Yep, so here they have all the, like for example, the Star Wars data set that is built in inside the base model. Yep, so this is it. In terms of the viewer, you won't use it right now. You probably use it during the tutorial series for R-Shiny and R-Shiny dashboard. So a viewer is whereby you can actually run the full dashboard inside this box. It's actually quite small. I usually don't use viewer. I just run it on my Google Chrome, and I can just see from a larger screen size. And yeah, this is it. So once again, this is the place where you type your script. Here is also a place for you to type your script. And then here we have the console. You will use it a lot if you actually want to do one-line code, or you want to test out some of the variables, or you want to know what's inside the variable. Then you can actually look in here. Of course, you can actually look into the environment, but sometimes it's actually faster that you type it. If you have like 100 variables, instead of scrolling all the way through the environment section, you can just type in here to see what's the variable inside. That's how I work actually. Yeah, I think this is it. Oh, also another thing, if you actually close the whole RStudio, they'll ask you if you want to save, and I click on don't save, and then I run RStudio up again. So you notice something is that this section here is actually automatically saved for you, right? For this section just now, because I'm using the another file, so it's not actually saved. But then if you open up a new script here, it will actually save the file for you. So if your computer suddenly run out of power, it will actually save the data for you, so you don't have to worry that if it crashed then you lost all the data. It's already saved up for you. So that's a good thing about RStudio. Alright, so this is it for this episode. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me on Discord, or leave your comments or questions in this video, and then I will try my best to answer it. Alright, so for next video, we're going to talk about some of the basic syntax in R and also the data types. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.